the Author Activation Weekend happening in the rolling hills of Tennessee, April 23rd through the 26th. And the 23rd specifically applies to the VIPs. So I'm recommending you get the VIP pass because you get to bring a +1 for free. So go to myauthorweekend.com. This particular weekend promises to not only help you produce your rough draft by the end of the weekend, but also so you can learn more about yourself, who you are, why you tick, and why the trauma or transformation unfolded the way it did for you. So you can reframe it and write from a place of healing. So if that sounds like you, go to myauthorweekend.com to get your tickets today. Seats are going fast and it's an intimate event. So our seating is very low. So make sure you get your tickets today. That's myauthorweekend.com. Let's get into the episode. You're looking out for a lot of people besides yourself. And it can be very easy to forget yourself in the midst of all of that. You're not weak if you ask for help. You're asking for help not only to keep yourself healthy, but to ensure that you're as strong as possible to help as many other people as possible. Good evening, my winners and goal getters. Welcome to this week's edition of the Getting the Win Show. I'm your host, Mellissa T, the Procrastination Bully. If this is your first time, welcome to the show. Our mission here is to help women who've navigated a trauma or transition find healing through writing and publishing their first book. And in today's episode, I'm getting to the heart of the matter, your voice. If you're someone that has been doubting the power of your voice, perhaps you've lost your voice, perhaps you're wondering if you should use it, today's episode is for you. Today's episode is your permission to use your voice, your permission to reclaim your voice if you gave up on it, or lost it. Today's episode is your permission to reclaim it. If you've been through a trauma or transition, you likely gave it up, whether intentionally or unintentionally, based on the trauma you experienced. Let me tell you today is your right to get that voice back. Because today I'm talking about several dire consequences of staying silent. Staying silent has a cost, and it's one you cannot afford at this point. It's one that the world cannot afford because it needs what you know. It needs your experience. It needs the lessons from your experiences. It needs your evolution, your growth, your lessons, your transformation as the possibility model that's missing right now. Are there millions of books out there? Absolutely. Yours is not, though. And remember, each of us has a unique fingerprint. We each have a unique voice, a unique frequency, a unique vibe. Our sheep will hear our voice and know us and come to us. I have people that gravitate to me, which amazes me to this day because I'm not exactly super high energy. I'm pretty chill as a person. But there are people who gravitate to that. There are people who appreciate it. There are people who learn from my vibe and my volume versus somebody who's very high energy, like a ET or like a Tony Robbins. There's some people who can't learn from folks like that because it's a little too much. So there are folks that prefer this kind of vibe. Whatever your vibe is, there are people out there that are attracted to you and waiting for you to make yourself heard and make yourself seen. All right. So today I want to start with what these costs are in terms of staying silent and why, someone like you, someone like me who love to serve or who simply serve because it's your nature, it's my nature, and perhaps you've lost yourself in the service. You're a mom, a wife, you're serving in your community. You're someone who is a single parent and you toughen it out. Like you're dealing with all the things. Or you could be someone that's kind of in the Oreo situation where you're not only a mom raising kids, you're also a caretaker, taking care of your parents or parent, or maybe a grandparent. That's a lot. You're looking out for a lot of people besides yourself. And it can be very easy to forget yourself in the midst of all of that. So let's talk about the cost of your silence, because we want to make sure to dispel that. and give you the solutions to reclaim your voice at the end of this, okay? So let me start with the cost. Talk about what's causing women like you, women like me to lose our voices, forget about them, underestimate them, surrender them. All right? So firstly, one statistic that hit home for me was the physical consequence of holding in anger. Like when you choose to remove your voice by expressing your frustrations, that ends up staying bottled up in your body. The body keeps the score. Holding in anger and emotions can increase your stress level. It increases your heart risk, your heart disease risk, and it causes issues like the most common ones: headaches, pain, digestive issues, sometimes muscle aches, joint pain, even. Inflammation is a whole thing, and chronic stress keeps that loop going. And the longer you have stress bound up in your body, the worse things escalate for you health wise. If you haven't, heard any episode of the show before, if you're new here, I experienced this. In my case, it wasn't just anger, it was frustration, sometimes despair, sometimes a sense of loneliness, a sense of feeling misunderstood. If any of these things sound like you and you've been holding it in, I promise you, you're not alone. I told myself I was, which was not true. It was very incorrect. I just didn't know who I could talk to. So here's the solution with that. Like, do what I call your resource inventory. I talk about that very often here on the show. Do your resource inventory. Carve out some time, maybe right before bed, maybe 15 to 20 minutes before bed. Grab yourself a journal, a notebook with a pen or a pencil, and write out the resources available to you, including the people in your network. Write down who you know, what their skills are, what they're good at, and how they can help you. That way you're keeping it top of mind so that when you're in a bind or when you're frustrated, you're tapped out, you don't then fall into the lie of I'm all alone. There's no way out of this, because that's not true. I had never done that at the time that I was going through my go through. So I kept telling myself, oh, nobody's going to understand me. Nobody, or perhaps you, like I did, self blamed. You kept silent because you were like, well, I brought this on myself. So I don't need to burden anybody else with this. Like, I'll figure it out. I'll deal with it. Okay. That also is a falsehood. Can I say that? Telling yourself that since you brought it on yourself, nobody else should know about it or it's not worth telling anybody else. That's a falsehood too. Because believe it or not, the people in your life, even when the thing is self inflicted, are still willing to help you. There are still people in your life willing to help you when that happens to you. They might let you know you messed up. They'll hold you accountable. Like there's no getting away from the accountability. But if they truly love you, they're not going to rub it in your face. They'll point it out to you and then point you to the solution or solutions. The ones that truly care about you, the ones that are all about results. They'll point out what you inflicted on yourself, but then they'll immediately focus the rest of the attention on getting you out of there, helping you get over the thing, helping you overcome the thing, whatever was self inflicted. But don't ever go silent anymore from now on, simply because you made a mistake yourself. You made a bad decision yourself. Don't ever worry about that. Like, still find the people in your life who care about you enough to be able to help you. Okay. So chronic stress that leads to health issues. That's one cost of staying silent. We can't afford to have you do that anymore. Remember what I always say. If you've been rocking with me for a while, you are a hashtag luxury item. Any luxury item that you own, you take good care of. You are a luxury item because you were created by the creator. with your own frequency, your own vibe, your own unique fingerprint, your unique voice, your unique energy, your unique experiences. Some experiences we share in common. It's how we self identify with each other. But when we experience a thing, it's unique to us based on how we were raised, based on the people we know, based on the culture we've grown up in, based on how we've been culturally conditioned by the society around us. Those things layer on to create the secret sauce that is us, based on the skills we acquire as well, right? You are you, and you're a one of one. I'm sure you've heard that before. Consider this your friendly reminder. You're a one of one, okay? Another cost in terms of staying silent, of choosing to revoke your voice. Keeping everything bottled in leads to depression and anxiety. Again, I can attest to this. I had that happen to me. That actually happened to me. For the first time in my whole limited life, in my 40s, like very early 40s, heading out of my 30s into 40s, I started having panic attacks, like anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And I was like, what is happening to me? It was terrifying because I had never experienced it before. I already have adult onset asthma, so every breath matters to me. And when you're having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, the first indication that something is wrong is that your breathing gets real short. It becomes very difficult to breathe, which only makes the short breathing worse because now you're like, what is happening? So now you're really hyperventilating. It's terrifying. So if this is you, you have panic attacks, you have anxiety attacks, think about what you're thinking about. What is the source of those attacks? And again, have a who. Who can you call to get help when you get into those moments? What are you telling yourself in those moments? Are you telling yourself that you're by yourself? Are you telling yourself that only you can fix this? Are you telling yourself that it's beyond repair? That may not be true either. But the key is to always connect with someone else that you know. Even if the person you know can't help you, find out if they can connect you to somebody that can help you. Always think in terms of solutions if you don't already. If you're somebody that's already action oriented, results oriented, and you think in decisions and results, then you're ahead of the game. You're in the top 12% of the world that's wired to be leaders and problem solvers. That's great. Please continue to be a problem solver, but never fall into the misconception that only you can solve the problem, though. You can ask for help, and you are not weak if you ask for help. Let me make that clear to you, too. You're not weak if you ask for help. You're asking for help not only to keep yourself healthy, but to ensure that you're as strong as possible to help as many other people as possible. Let's make sure we're not bottling up any stress, and let's do what we can to prevent depression and anxiety or to curb depression and anxiety. And those two things require us to connect with people. You cannot resolve depression or anxiety by yourself. It's the being by yourself that caused the depression or anxiety to appear, more than likely. So you're going to have to connect with at least one other who, a close friend, a mentor, a spiritual figure, whether a pastor or somebody that's senior spiritually that you can reach out to based on whatever your spiritual worldview is. But somebody, all right? And here's one that was alarming for me. When we choose to stay silent, it's actually harder to heal from our trauma the longer that we're silent. So one of the things I often say on the show is it takes as long as it takes. Some of us will become impatient when we're trying to learn a thing, do a thing, change a thing, whether that's change a habit, solve a problem, work on a luxury item, work on something we don't feel like working on connected to our luxury item. It takes as long as it takes. And when it comes to healing from our traumas or revisiting our traumas to retell it in our books, the task might seem daunting, especially if you've been walking this journey alone. So if you have been walking this journey alone, I again encourage you to one, speak out, like put it in the book, put it in a journal to start, if that's the first step you need before you get into the writing process of a book. Start with a journal, start with the voice notes. Start with the voice notes in your phone during your commute, when you're in the bathroom, when you're on a walk, whenever you're by yourself and you're private. Start with the voice notes in your phone, write it in your journal, lock it into the pages. But it's harder to heal from trauma the longer you keep it in and stay silent. Women who never talk about their painful experiences often have worse PTSD than women who share their story with somebody they trust. Isn't that crazy? You have worse PTSD the longer you hold it in. And I can attest to that too. When I was 9 years old, I had an incident that happened to me. I detailed it in a previous episode, so I won't go into all the details here. I had a young boy hit me, like physically hit me. And the girls that I was playing with at the time, they all just laughed at me. Girls that I thought were my friends. And my 9-year-old brain told me girls are evil. Because I didn't talk about that, remember how old I was? I said 9. As of this recording, I am 43. It took me 27 years to my mid 30s. It took me 27 years to finally open up to the female gender again. I don't like using the word female, it sounds very depersonalizing. But I'm just saying, in general, girls and women alike, it took me 27 years to want to be bothered with the female gender because I didn't talk about it. So, this is your encouragement. This is your strong urging from me. Talk to somebody. Talk to one person that you trust. Okay? Or else the PTSD, the trauma will seep in even deeper into your soul. And it'll be that much harder to overcome, that much harder to extract lessons from when the time comes to write your book. Okay? Or, if anything, use this book writing as the opportunity to start excavating if you haven't excavated yet. Let writing your book be that initial opportunity, that initial point of change. And if you follow my channel, I can walk you through my F5 framework. I have a whole playlist on writing your book step by step. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube at Getting the Win and check out my playlist. You'll see it there. But use my process as your initial step in excavating. If you're somebody that has been hanging on to your trauma or transition without talking about it, right? Another consequence of staying silent, unhappy relationships. Because when we are unhealed, it colors how we see all of our relationships going forward. If we've been hurt by a relative when we were a kid, we have a distrust for either our other relatives, like all of them, or relatives that fit that gender, relatives that are from that side of the family, or just people that fit that age group, even if they're not relatives, like strangers. Another example from my personal life. I was sexually violated on 3 separate occasions as a kid. It took me decades to feel safe alone in a room with a man. And I'll be honest with you, these days, the only men that I'm ever alone in a room with are men that I know are already safe. I still wouldn't want to be alone in a room with a stranger, like with a strange man. I wouldn't want to do that. I think I spoke on a previous episode about the internet meme that was going around last year. And this was a man that had posed the question, like, would you feel safer as a woman if you were walking in the woods and encountered a man, a strange man, or a bear? The vast majority of the internet chose bear, men and women alike. The vast majority of the internet chose bear. Shocking, right? And that's because, as summarized by one young lady's response, at least if I say if the bear attacked me, everybody would believe me. The human heart is unsteady. So I get it. If you're someone who has a trauma from a previous relationship, from a family member, whatever the case may be, that's going to color how you see all your other relationships and how you're going to approach people. Perhaps it's the trauma that has caused you to be far more reserved, far quieter to prevent any other harm. The problem with staying that way, though, is that then you're always wondering when the other shoe's going to drop. You're in the relationship now, you're in the friendship now. There will always be that nagging question in the back of your head. Okay, when's this thing going to happen to me? When are they going to betray me? When are they going to try to make a move on me? Right? Does it sound familiar? And trust me, I feel you. It's an annoying nag to have in the back of your head. So this is why I also emphasize the importance of community. Even if you can't find community in person, perhaps that's a bit too much for you, given the trauma or transition you went through. At least start online. Find communities online that speak to what you're dealing with. Find support groups that speak to what you're dealing with, or communities that are doing the thing you aspire to. So, say for instance, you're an aspiring author, head into some author groups, and you can niche down if you want to. Head into author groups that talk about the topic that you're trying to overcome or a topic that you're interested in. Like, you can niche down, you can narrow it down. But start online, introduce yourself, and gradually share your story, share bits and pieces of your story. We develop rapport based on our vulnerabilities. I'm a part of the UOU Mastermind, and I have been now for 3 years, almost. Like summer of this year will make it 3 years as of this recording. Outside of my own parents, I haven't found a safer space. Like, this is my second family to me. And I had a couple of vulnerable moments this week, and I had the privilege of being able to contact no less than 3 people from that community and vent what I was feeling. And for one particular person, because he's an older gentleman that I greatly respect as both my coach and my mentor. And for his part, like, my contact with him was me asking questions because I wanted to make sure I was tracking and that I wasn't tripping. Right? This is the importance of having at least one person in your life that you trust. I was able to ask him questions to gauge whether or not I was on the right page with the conclusions I was coming to. And it turns out I was, because he's not involved in the situation I was talking about. He had the sober mind. He was objective. He was outside of it and was able to look at it and say, no, no, you are correct. Like, your assessment is correct. That was not okay. I was like, got it. It makes all the difference in the world for you to bounce your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings, your notions off of an objective person, somebody who is not in your situation at all, simply so you can hear the words, you're not crazy. This is valid. Your conclusion is valid. One great example of this was through Trevor Noah. His podcast is called What Now? And he was speaking with a behavioral psychologist, Dr. Kristen Carruthers, about his nonprofit program in South Africa. And he noticed with the children in the schools that he was serving that they were obviously their grades were very low because they were at-risk youth. And he said he was ready to brainstorm ideas on how to fix the problem. And he said what he found was actually extremely humbling. He said all the kids needed, they didn't even necessarily need a solution. They just needed someone to hear them out and to validate them. They just needed the confirmation that no, you really are not being looked after properly by your family. You're not being properly advocated for. Like you're like what you're feeling is correct. You're not crazy. Just that, just being heard and feeling seen and understanding that they're not crazy, they're not gaslit, like they are coherent. Just that raise the grades, raise their morale and raise the grades. And Trevor was amazed at that. And that can be true for you too. That's not unique to South Africa. If you've heard me on the show before, I've talked about Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. It's one of my all-time favorite books. This is a man who was a former FBI negotiator, hostage negotiator, and he was in super high stakes scenarios, like where these hostages could potentially die if he failed at his job. Domestic terrorists, international terrorists, people who are petty criminals, whatever the scenario was, the one principle throughout his entire book is tactical empathy. His whole point is if you make a person feel heard, everything de escalates. And then you can negotiate and reach a mutual conclusion. When it comes to hostages, you can't split a difference. They're either dead or alive, right? When a person feels seen and heard, things de escalate and they're able to function, they're able to listen, and all parties can reach a solution. So find a community where you can be seen and heard. Or if it's online, heard. if you're dealing with the trauma that causes you to be very shy, painfully shy like I was, you can start small. Like with the in-person thing, you can start small. There are smaller communities. Before I joined the UOU Mastermind, where I was living in Central Florida, I had joined a Toastmasters, like humble chapter. There was no more than 10 of us in there at each meeting that I attended. There was never more than 10 people in the room. And the beauty with joining that Toastmasters chapter is it forced me to speak. I was already a decent speaker because by then I had done my 9 years in the news media industry. By then, like 7. I'll say 7 years. So by then I was used to having to talk on the fly, having to throw a microphone in somebody's face as they're walking because they ain't got time for a full-blown interview and they're wondering who you are, right? But even being part of that Toastmasters group made a difference for me because it gave me the chance to slow down and organize my thoughts. Those are two different skills. But I'm sharing these as examples. But there is power in finding a community for yourself. Start online if you're painfully shy, but find one. Start with one community that you can find for yourself so you can feel heard, feel seen, and de-escalate. Decrease the depression, ease the anxiety, relieve the stress off of your body. Okay? That is very important. Another cost of staying silent, I spoke to it a little bit earlier, is feeling invisible and alone. It's a terrible feedback loop. And it goes back to the lie that I talked about earlier. when I said nobody understands me, nobody knows what I'm going through, or that other lie that I mentioned, which is, well, I brought this on myself, so it's not worth telling anybody. All of those things lead to loneliness because you gradually keep withdrawing and withdrawing and withdrawing. Yeah, it's a constant feedback loop because the more you reserve yourself, the less visible you're going to be. The less people see you, the less they're going to check in on you. They don't mean any harm, but you're out of sight, out of mind. Again, speaking from experience, this happened to me. This happened to me. During those 9 years while I was in the news media industry, after a while, I really closed off because I was so busy with the work. I stopped being social because I was too exhausted. But that caused me to be quite alone. And I kind of became invisible. Like when I was not out in the streets doing the job, nobody really checked in on me like that, because they assumed I was okay. This is the importance of speaking up. If folks don't know you need help, they won't necessarily offer it. Everybody's in their own little world. You'll have your few folks here and there that might check up on you if they're high flight attendant, because flight attendants are really good at this. They're wonderful because they're people. So the folks in your life who are high energy, they're big on relationships, they love creating a fun experience, they're the ones that make you laugh. The people like that in your life, they might periodically check on you because they're people. They love people. And they'll remember you the most. But even they can sometimes zip past you because remember, they also think fast. They got 50 things going on in their head. So the folks in your life don't mean any harm in terms of your sense of feeling invisible. But unless you raise the alarm and let them know you need help, they'll assume you're all right. Simon Sinek used to talk about this a lot in his early days of his first marketing firm. He was running the firm. He had the appearance that he was doing great. Emotionally, he was miserable. He was utterly miserable. And it wasn't until he disclosed his feelings to a close friend that he was finally able to get the help that he needed. Starting with that one friend and then other relationships in his life, they understood then that he needed the help and reached out and began to help him. And he began to heal. So it's a feedback loop. Be mindful of that. Feeling invisible and alone. Those two are wrapped up in several lies that we've discussed before. It's not okay to do that, right? Another consequence of staying silent, and another reason why I'm urging you to never do it again, is that we women who've navigated a trauma or transition, we women who serve until we are pouring blood from our cup. We poured out the contents of the cup and then it was empty after a while. Then what follows when you're pouring from an empty cup is blood, because that's when your health starts to suffer. Those of us who serve that hard, who give so much of ourselves, who forget ourselves, we end up dying younger. That's another consequence. We die younger because we're just exhausted. Our bodies are spent. We reach our limit. Okay? That is not something that we can have you do out here. Okay? And even for me, I had a close call, health wise. By the grace of God, I'm still here. But this is not a consequence we can afford to have for you. So I'm urging you today, find your one person, do your resource inventory, take note of the people in your life, what they do, how they can help you, and who they know. Because most of us, we know enough people, and then for a handful of those people, we can list who they know as well, and what those third degree people do. You have more available to you than you might think. And in case you're wondering or feeling like you're alone, you are anxious or depressed, this is why you have to speak out. Your voice is important. Your voice matters. Your voice is needed. Your voice is needed. If you're someone on a completely separate note from everything I've discussed so far, if you're someone who believes that perhaps your story is too late, you're too old to talk about it, let me assure you, even that is a misconception. Even that is a misconception. Let me tell you about a couple people who busted that glass ceiling. The person that holds the Guinness World Record as the world's oldest female author is Sarah Louise Delaney. She was 107 years old. She wrote a book called On My Own at 107, Reflections on Life Without Bessie. That was published December 1st, 1996. She was 107 years old. A more recent example is a woman who is currently 111. No lie. This was as of 2025. Violet Ford Fletcher, author of Don't Let Them Bury My Story, she's currently the one with the title of oldest to publish a book, 111. And you see what her book is called? Don't Let Them Bury My Story. Okay? If she at 111 understands that her story is worth telling so that it's not buried, then imagine how much more important yours is. Whatever your age is, as you're watching this. Hers, the reason she didn't want hers buried is because she actually experienced the Tulsa Race Massacre. So she wanted to make sure that she put that down in the pages. They're talking about Black Wall Street, she was a part of that. So she wanted to make sure that experience was sealed within the pages of a book so that it would long outlive her. Okay? So if you're ever wondering, I'm too old, nobody cares, who's going to listen, your experience is still unique to you. Your voice, your vibe, your experiences, your skill set, your culture, all of that combined together to make you you. All those things combined together to make me who I am. I'm an 8-time self-published author now, going on 9. I'm working on that Pain to Prose playbook. That'll be number 9 for me. And I have the Author Activation Weekend coming up in April, at the end of April, the 23rd to 26th, to guide other women who've been through a trauma or transition through that healing process of writing their first book. The first part of the process is the healing through writing. You've gone through the trauma already. You've gone through the transition, through the transformation. But there is a healing power in writing and sealing your voice within the pages of a book. And that healing process alone is worth sharing with the world. And this is not coming from me. This is God's calling on my life. My name is Mellissa, which means honeybee. I live to help other people blossom. There is no greater way to blossom, no more optimal way to blossom than through healing. And since my skill set, my personal skill set is writing, God combined those two things. And he said, help these women heal through writing their first book. You know what the process is. You've experienced a transformation yourself. Be their shepherd, be their guide. So that's exactly what I do now. And between this podcast, me talking to you on camera, me speaking openly and vulnerably in the UOU Mastermind, in that safe space, that community, and speaking one-on-one to the people in my life that I trust, my parents, other members of my family, I've blossomed. I've come a long way in the last 3 years from where I was when I was telling myself that I was alone, telling myself that nobody else would understand me, telling myself that I brought this on myself, wondering if anybody would ever take my voice seriously. I had relinquished it. I had given up on it completely. And it took these 3 years. It took me being open with the people in my life that I loved. It took me choosing a community. And in this case, this is a community I invested in. Masterminds are not cheap, but I made the investment into developing my voice, into relearning myself, and into learning the language to help me more clearly express myself. Maybe you don't have the luxury of investing right now. That's okay. That's why I said start with one online community. Most online communities are free. So you can start somewhere. You can find a tribe somewhere that can work for you. Start small in your local community. A lot of community organizations are also free. Start small. Start in person, start online, but start small. Find a who, find a group, and then cultivate your voice. If you've forgotten it, if you relinquished it, if you gave up on it, cultivate your voice. Remind yourself of who you are. Relearn even who you are. That's what I had to do over these 3. I had to relearn myself. Who's Mellissa Thomas? What is her purpose on this planet? What does she find fun? What is she capable of? What is a goal to aim towards? How can she serve in the world? How can she matter? I learned all of those things over the last 3 years, and now I'm walking in it without blinking. You can too. Let this episode be your permission to use your voice. Your voice is needed. Your voice is valid. Your voice is needed. Your voice is valid. The world needs what you know. The world needs your experience. And as I said in the previous episode, don't fear the darkest parts of your trauma or transformation. It's those pockets that people will self-identify with. Don't fear the vulnerability. There are those that will listen to you and self-identify and either come to you for solutions based on what your experience was, or can come to you with solutions based on their experience. We all coexist to help each other based on our experiences. So if this episode was beneficial to you, please subscribe. I'm at Getting the Win on YouTube. And you can follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at the Getting the Win, at Getting the Win Show, at Getting the Win Show. I'm on Spotify. If you're an audiophile, just look up Getting the Win Show on Spotify. And you can find me on LinkedIn. If you want to connect on a professional level, you want to book me to speak. If you want to find out more about the Author Activation Weekend, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mellissa Thomas, 2 L's and 2 S's. And of course, that Author Activation Weekend, again, is coming up in April 23rd to 26th. I strongly recommend that VIP option because it allows you to bring a plus one for free. For free. It can be your author bestie. It can be your partner. It can be an accountability buddy. Somebody that's a who in your life that can hold your feet to the fire so you can finish your rough draft in that weekend. Because we are giving you 4 days, and by the end of Sunday, you will leave with a rough draft. That is a promise. You will leave with a rough draft. So if that sounds like you, go to myauthorweekend.com to find out more. But in the meantime, in between time, stay tuned till next Wednesday for another great episode. Have a great and productive this Wednesday and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.